Hello and welcome to the what we consider to be the ongoing version of the Fantasy Blitz. We had this on Blog Talk last year where we did the newsreel, news clip, and everything for you guys. I am Will, the commissioner of the Manning versus Peterson for MVP Fantasy Football League, here with co-commissioner Tad Dorsey, maker of the schedule, also maker of the written league newsletter. Definitely does a lot of great things there for us. How you doing today, Tad?
Yeah, we're doing great today. We're going to have a great week talking about our fantasy football league.
Yeah, so we definitely one of the new things that we definitely implemented this year was creating it to a buy-in league. So the winner gets $40, if they win the championship. We definitely really hope that this can make it fun, this can make it exciting, this can make it entertaining for everybody. So, definitely be sure to, give that a look and understand that, we definitely want to create a fun, entertaining, and exciting league, going forward. So, so far, we have seen some great things through 2 weeks of fantasy football. So we'll just kind of get into where we're at right now. Currently looking at the league standings, and yeah, I mean it is pretty early and everything, but you got Breezy's Pieces and JJ's Gritty Glory. They are the two undefeated teams in the league right now, and man, definitely very impressive rosters thus far. So, and also the way we're doing it this season is the top 6 teams make the playoffs. So. Really, it's just the last 2 teams at the end of the regular season won't make the cut, but still a chance for lots of competitiveness and everything like that, to be able to go forward and everything. So we definitely hope it's fun and exciting for everybody involved. Yeah, so we look at this and everything, and we see that JJ's Gritty Glory and Breezy's Pieces are tied, and then you got the No Chub Club 1-1 apiece with Viva La Porta Loca, and then leading the Jackson division, a 2-way tie at 1-1, and then 2 winless teams currently No Era and my team No CMC, who was originally Run CMC, but due to my franchise face being injured, definitely a rough start for what is now the club name No CMC.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say early on, looking at the headlines of the season, I mean, looking at fantasy, it's just a lot of injuries, unfortunately. I mean, you got, obviously, McCaffrey, you got guys like the issue with Tua, and Debo Samuel, stuff like that. Just a lot of guys that are going to be missing sometimes, and what can some teams do to adjust to that situation?
Yeah, I mean, this is where fantasy football gets, really intriguing, right? You got to play like a game of chess. You got to be able to make moves, even with injuries. You got to anticipate for injuries as well. So, I mean, like with me, certainly, I'm definitely gonna keep Christian McCaffrey on my IR. I mean, you don't draft him number 1 just to drop him. So, yeah. But yeah, let's go ahead and look at the matchups of what took place in week 2 of the Mahomes versus Jackson for MVP Fantasy Football League on ESPN.com.
Yeah, we saw some very close, very exciting matchups. I'd say the headline was the top 2 scoring teams, with JJ's Gritty Glory surviving a 321-318 victory over CD's Big TDs. So that was a very interesting matchup. A lot of high level play. Fred Warner was massive for Gritty Glory. Well, Kyler Murray for CD's team, that was a big performance there to keep them in the game, make it competitive. Great to see Kyler Murray being what he once was once again. So that just raises the competitive level there, and it was a huge win for Gritty Glory to go to 2-0.
A big win there for JJ's Gritty Glory to go to 2-0. And then we got what was the commissioners' rivalry, if you will. These two franchises has been a long time rivalry since the inaugural season of the league. These two franchises go back. Yeah, obviously, I definitely tried to make some moves there with Malik Neighbors and Daniel Jones. CJ Stroud had a big first half, but didn't have as big of a second half as I needed him to. And then obviously Dallas Goedert, and then the Dolphins losing and everything. I definitely don't think that helped me in the commissioners' rivalry game.
Yeah, it was an interesting matchup. Some surprising play
defense. Shout out to the Jets defense on your end, though. Big plays by them.
Yeah, the Jets defense was a big pickup for my squad. But it was a very competitive game, and I mean, we could have seen it go either way. And obviously, it's to be mentioned that not having guys like Puka Nacua and McCaffrey, that played a difference. And then, just some interesting dynamics there.
A good performance though from Joe Burrow, James Conner as well on your end. Joe Burrow definitely had a high level performance despite of the loss in KC. So it's really just like some top level stuff.
Yeah, a good matchup. So then another game we could look at would be Reese's Pieces taking on New Era.
With Reese's Pieces. Yeah, so with Reese's Pieces and New Era, what you saw in this game was a clash of two teams. Obviously Liam Bald with his roster. Drake London with a really good performance. Brees Hall, as his franchise face, went out there and had a big time performance. You definitely liked what you also saw though on David's team from Dak Prescott, despite of the loss. Well, actually, not really. Nico Collins probably had the best performance. The Ravens defense really stood out for him. Overall, a pretty close game of fantasy football. You probably feel what the overall driving edge might have been for Breezy's Pieces. Not necessarily the play from Anthony Richardson. Justin Herbert his quarterbacks didn't necessarily go out and have super flashy performances. You definitely like what you saw out of his running backs, Drake London, George Kittle, even Tony Pollard. His skill position players really stood out. And the Browns defense didn't do too bad either.
Mm-hmm. Just a really consistent performance. Not a lot of obscenely high scores out of Reese's Pieces, but just pretty much everyone on the roster doing their job. You'd probably like to see a little more out of Anthony Richardson, but other than that, pretty much everyone had, at the very least, a respectable performance, and that's enough to win more often than not.
And defending champion New Era David, 0-2 start after coming off of the league championship last season. What does he as an owner and looking at his roster and squad? Derrick Henry, shout out to him. Shout out to Derrick Henry. And real quick, while we're on the subject of Derrick Henry, because I know David will like this, and we're talking about his matchup. What was your take on the touchdown where he literally just pile drive through 10 dudes and scored anyway?
Derrick Henry,
specifically on that play, what were you thinking?
Yeah, Derrick Henry, he's just a guy that you give him the ball and he's going to do whatever he can to go forward as much as he can. He's one of the true power backs in the league. There's not a lot of them left. There's a lot of finesse backs that can do the run, the pass, a lot of speed backs, but he's a pure power back, and one of the most power back forces in the league, and I feel like New Era's team will be much more successful if Baltimore commits to running the ball more with Derrick Henry. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and then obviously, probably, a disappointing performance from Jamar Chase.
Yeah. Jamar Chase he's of course he had all the stuff going on in the offseason with the contract issues and not being in training camp. I feel like Jamar Chase is going to turn it on. He'll be fine. And as the stars for New Era continues to pull together, this is a team that I wouldn't be too worried with an 0-2 start there. I think they'll be a team that's competitive throughout the year.
Would you say the same for no CMC?
I mean, they just need to get healthy. I mean, no CMC just needs to get healthy. I mean,
Nakua's hurt. Christian's hurt.
Yeah, we don't know the extent of the injuries. I mean,
but real quick, while we're on the subject of no CMC, a trade did go down between obviously myself and Sam, where Sam next week going into week 3, he will be taking Devin Achane and I'm giving him Devin Achane. I'm sorry, I'm really trying to think about that trade right now.
Let's see.
I believe I can look it up.
Yeah, I can.
I know I'm getting Brock Purdy, and it was a good trade when I looked at it.
Brock Purdy and DeAndre Swift are going to
no CMC.
No CMC, and Devon Achane and Deontay Johnson are going to CDs.
So, what's your take? What's your just like neutral take on that trade? Real quick.
Definitely a risky move by no CMC. Obviously they get stronger at the quarterback position, which is something they felt they needed to do, I would assume. And
no CMC figured, Brock Purdy, I mean, he had Bryce Young as QB3. I mean, Brock Purdy definitely better than Bryce Young.
Yeah. I definitely feel like losing a running back like Devon Achane, probably the best player in the trade, in my opinion. That's a risky move, but I mean, they felt they needed to make the move at the quarterback position, and it's a move that they did what they could to improve their team. Yes. And I mean,
I think no CMC was just really looking to build some depth at the quarterback position.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's a risk reward. Definitely a tough decision to let go of Devin Achane, but an intriguing move nonetheless. And I kind of respect it by Sam. So, yeah. Anyways, on to the next matchup in the newsreel for the Mahomes versus Jackson for MVP Fantasy Football League on ESPN.com. And let's talk about first picks versus the No Chuck Club. And I mean, you look at this matchup, and you certainly think that this is a matchup between two teams that really came out and had very high scoringness. Definitely had very high expectations going into this football or this fantasy football game. And I mean, obviously, this is a rivalry that dates back between the two owners, Dallas Bruno and Evan Sturgeon. So, when I look at these two owners, I definitely knew that they were going to bring their all. So honestly, probably No Chubb Club was probably expecting somewhat of a bigger performance from Patrick Mahomes, but the Bengals defense really played out. Really disappointing showing by Caleb Williams for Dallas. And then, Baker Mayfield had a decent enough showing. Probably a disappointing showing from the Miami receivers and really Miami as a whole, and that Tua getting hurt did them no favors. So a really tough break when you were pretty much banking on Hill and Waddle to kind of really ball out for you, but then Kyron Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs kind of really carried the load to keep you competitive in it. But honestly, you feel like what this fantasy football game really came down to Dallas for was Tua getting hurt, and that affected his Miami receivers and the very disappointing showing from Caleb Williams.
Yeah, when I look at the first picks roster, it's clear that they're a team that's built, and they have eyes on the future. Obviously, a guy like Caleb Williams, the number 1 draft pick, he's a guy that he's not off to a good start this year, but this is a guy that, and with the keeper format of the league, with having 4 keepers, maybe that's a guy that he sees as a long-term roster guy in Caleb Williams. So still a lot of potential there. And obviously another issue for first picks is the new injury to Pacheco, so that's not going to help in the short-term future at least. But looking at No Chubb Club, phenomenal performance by Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara with his 84 fantasy points, and the Saints, they just kept on scoring and they kept on keeping on against the Dallas Cowboys, and Alvin Kamara was the lead benefactor of that in that offense, and he's continuing to be a very productive fantasy player.
Yeah, so like, I'm looking at this and everything, and so I'm just really thinking, Jalen Hurts really had a good performance here. And then Travis Etienne, Brandon Ayuk, kind of like a bit of a disappointing showing, but a really good win for No Chubb Club.
Absolutely. A great showing there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then let's go ahead and have a look at CD's big TDs versus JJ's Gritty Glory. Definitely like the best game of the week. I mean, this was this was a juggernaut of a match between Trent and Sam. Both teams undefeated going into this one, but only one of them can remain undefeated, that being Trent. And boy, this was a dogfight of a matchup. Really exciting game of fantasy football. I mean, Justin Fields and Kyler Murray, easily the league MVP, just for the whole season alone, like, of our fantasy league. This is easily, like, I don't think there is going to be a better fantasy performance by an individual player for the remainder of the entire season within our league. Shout out to Kyler Murray, week 2, scoring the perfect amount of points. I mean, no more, no less. There you go, Kyler Murray. So shout out to him. And what's your take on Kyler Murray? I mean, really specifically, what is your take on Kyler Murray and, like, what he did in that freaking game? And, like, your take on the score?
Yeah, I mean, Kyler Murray just went out there. He balled. Great to see him healthy again. He was back to his regular state of making plays on the run, making great throws, getting his star receivers involved, and CD's managing to stack Trey McBride and Kyler Murray together, the tight end Trey McBride. That's a good move, and McBride had a solid day. Murray obviously was fantastic, and just a great start there, and that kept them competitive in this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was definitely a very fun, exciting performance there. And then, Trent. Let's look at Trent, Lamar Jackson, Chris Godwin, Justin Jefferson. Real quick, what was your take on the Justin Jefferson touchdown from Sam Darnold?
Yeah, man, that's just a play that a top tier draft pick like Justin Jefferson's gonna make. I mean, Gritty Glory used their first draft pick on a guy like Justin Jefferson, and he definitely helped to carry the team today. He wasn't the only one, but he was a big factor. Even leaving early with the injury, he still put up 44 points, and it looks like he'll be back. Won't miss any time, but having a guy like Justin Jefferson definitely raises the potential of any team.
And then a big performance by the Saints defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the defenses were honestly probably the deciding factor. I mean, with the Saints putting up 50 and the Cowboys only having 26
I
for
mean, it's ironic
points.
because that's the defense that went up against the other defense. So
Yeah, it was
we know the
the
result of
two
that game.
teams played.
So
And I mean, honestly, if you get anything more out of the Cowboys defense, it probably would have been enough to bridge the gap for Sam's side there. So that was unfortunate from that perspective for the Cowboys to do what they did.
So yeah, I mean, just a really good, fun game of fantasy football that I'm looking at, and then not really any. I mean, JJ's gritty glory definitely could have played Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, you never know when a rookie like that is going to break out. I mean, he
What
had a
was
very
real quick? I mean,
underwhelming.
Marvin Harrison Jr. was on the bench, but what's your take on his performance, Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State?
Yeah, yeah. As I was saying, Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, with a rookie like that, you never know what you're going to get. Like he had a very underwhelming week one showing. He wasn't involved in the offense, and then week two they do whatever they can to get him involved. But he had a great second game to get his career going, and now he could continue to be one of the top wide receivers in the league. I mean, he could elevate his game to that point, but we just might not see consistency early on. So we'll see.
Good stuff. Yeah. So yeah, that pretty much sums up the league matchups. That's kind of where we're at for the league. Some really exciting things going on in the Mahomes versus Jackson for MVP Fantasy Football League. Yeah, be sure to like the video, and we'll definitely post more content in the page for you guys to keep up with. We'll probably bring you a preview clip later this week. Yeah, stay tuned, and yeah, welcome to another great season of fantasy football. This has been another great newsreel from the commissioners, Will and Tad. Thank you guys for all you do and your efforts in making this a fun and competitive league.